Converted Man here. The problem with proving God by the clever Catholic. Yes, the problem will be that you don't have any proof, and that's why it's hard to prove God. But maybe I'm skipping ahead. I mean, you have a full 4 minutes and 8 seconds worth of video here, which I'm sure will only take me, let me check my math, 5 days to complain about. So let's get started.
Hello and welcome to The Clever Catholic, also on theclevercatholic.com. I'm Joey Fulgione. Today we will be discussing the problem with proving God. The problem with proving God.
You don't
After
have
seeing
proof?
so many signs, the blind regain their sight, the lame walk, lepers are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, and the poor have the good news proclaimed to them. Matthew 11:5.
Well, whoa. So after seeing all these, what you call signs and or miracles or whatever, those are in Matthew. So okay, you're not talking about me or you seeing anything. What you're talking about is somebody wrote down that somebody else supposedly saw some stuff. Uh, why should I believe that any of that is true?
Scribes and Pharisees still insist to see a sign by Jesus that will end all possibility of doubt.
Yeah, and again, that's in the story that I have no reason to believe actually happened. Why should I think that anything that story says is true? Why should I think that the Pharisees cared even a little bit about what Jesus was doing? But on the other hand, it could be that the Pharisees had heard that this guy was going around saying that he did this and that, and they said, "Oh, really? Prove it." And then when you read that bits of the Bible when they do this, they're always painted as the bad guys, of course. Jesus doesn't seem to ever actually do anything. Instead, he says stuff to them. He responds and he quotes verses at them, and he's made to be clever. But Jesus never does anything in front of the Pharisees. Now, in the story, this is made to be because, like, I don't owe it, like they're the bad guys anyways. Even if I showed them, it wouldn't prove it, kind of thing. But I'm like, maybe this is the one. Maybe this is some of the historical accurate thing that might have happened leaking through to the final text. Maybe. Or maybe it's just there to make it seem more believable. Because why would you believe a huckster that said, "Yeah, I did this and that. I healed this blind person and this leopard and did that." And it's like, and your followers like, yes, he did. It's like, I've seen 20 other guys before you say that today alone. All right. So show me something now. Well, what about the blah, 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 blah? And it's like, okay, you didn't show me anything now. Go away. I don't have time for you. There's going to be another guy after you that's going to claim even more stuff than you did, and he's going to do the same thing. He's not going to prove any of it. I want you to show me that you can do anything at all, even a little bit. Oh, well, you're not supposed to test God, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so you're not going to show me the thing. You're not going to, and he's like, see, followers? They're so blind. They can't see the evidence. No, just show me a miracle right now, Jesus guy. No, I'm not going to do that. The Father is blah, blah, blah. Look, your words don't mean diddly squat. Show us anything. And Jesus doesn't. Because he can't. Because he's a charlatan. That's how they're going to view him. Now, of course, the story makes it like he has the moral high ground and that he has done these miracles and his followers know better. So they're laughing at them. And I'm like, You nitwit. Just show them something. Do something in front of them. Say, all right, give me a knife. Cut your hand. Show them it's bleeding, and then make it stop bleeding immediately. Or, like, all right, fine. Bring me somebody you know is blind. You can see now. Bring me somebody that you know can't walk. You can walk now. Whatever. Do something. Say, hey, look, you've got that wine, you've got that water, or you've got that wine. I'll switch it into water, or I'll switch it into wine. Well, I'll turn it right in front of you, under your face, so you know that I'm not even touching it. Look, my hands are here. All my followers are behind me. You can control it to the best that they could control experiments, back then, which wouldn't be very good, but still, it'd be something. All right, look, bam, right there, miracle, right under your noses. There you go, Pharisees. I've given you that. And they'd be like, and then if they said, the Pharisees crossed their arms and were like, well, that doesn't count, then I could be like, well, yeah, all right, that's silly. But the story isn't written that way. Okay, so there's a number of possibilities, and I don't know why we're spending time worrying about what the story says, but since that's what we're doing, okay, so it could be that Jesus, like I said, was a huckster, a con artist, and he had convinced his followers that he had done those things. Now, you might say, oh, but his followers saw him. Did they? Do we know that? Well, they say that they saw it, and well, no, the person that writes it down eventually says that the follower saw us that. But we don't. Do we actually know that the follower actually saw it themselves? And if they did see it, how close to Jesus were they when they saw it? Did they really see what they thought they saw? In other words, do they know 100% certainty that the guy that Jesus comes up to and that says he's blind is actually blind? Is there any possibility that Jesus, wanting to get a following, wanting to get, maybe he wanted to get fame, maybe he wanted to hopefully get fortune, maybe he just wanted to make a name for himself. Who knows what his motivations might have been? Maybe he just, wanted to be famous, infamous, perhaps. And he got somebody, maybe his brother, maybe somebody related to him, maybe a close friend, maybe his mom and dad, to go before him and say, okay, look, hire somebody, give them a couple of shekels, whatever the bleep the money is at the time, and have them sit in rags and pretend to be blind. And I'm going to come by in a few minutes with my followers. And I'm going to rub some mud on the guy's eyes, wash it off, and he's going to be able to see. Couldn't he do that? Sure. Of course he could. Now, his followers aren't going to interrogate the guy. They're not going to follow up on the guy. They're not going to ask other people if that guy was blind the whole time. No. Why? Because why would they? They believe it. They see him what appears to do a miracle to them from their perspective. And then they write it down. That's plausible. So we don't know. And same thing with the deaf or the leopard. Again, you could just have fakers sitting in pretending to be sick who then are cured. You could also have the placebo effect kick in, where the person isn't really fully blind, they're partially blind, and they see for a little bit, or maybe they're seeing spiritually or whatever, or maybe none of that happened and it's just completely fabricated in full story. Maybe none of it, maybe he didn't even set up the con because he didn't even need to, because the person just wrote down that it all happened. Any of that is possible. But you're asking me to spend time worrying about what is a written story. It is for me looking at the Lobsterist and taking it seriously. And if you don't know what the Lobsterist is, it's on my About page. There's actually 2 Lobsterists out now. You can read them both and try to take them seriously. It might, Why should you? Because they're written doesn't mean that any of it happened. Didn't mean any of it true. Okay, so the Pharisees then say, "Hey, Jesus, do a sign." He doesn't ever do any sign for them, and they go, "Well, of course we're gonna keep doubting you." Had he done a sign for them, and they were like, "Well, we're gonna keep doubting you," maybe the writers were like, "That's too unbelievable. We're gonna make it. We're not gonna put that in there." Or maybe this is, again, maybe that Jesus, as being a huckster, did go and the Pharisees did demand that he do stuff and he didn't do that stuff, but said clever things or what the person thought was clever and recorded that somewhat accurately. If the story was different in that he did the miracles and then the Pharisees still doubted the miracles, I'd say, well, okay, you can complain about the Pharisees not believing, even though the Pharisees got to see it firsthand. But within the story, the Pharisees never get to see any of this for themselves, so why should they believe?
Matthew 12:38. Such a request will not be granted. Verse
See?
39. After Jesus cures a leper, for example, Jesus tells the leper to go, show yourself to the priest, and offer the gift that Moses prescribed. That will be proof for them. Matthew 8:4. Curing a leper is sufficient proof that God acts through the Lord Jesus. Although he had performed so many signs in their presence, they did not believe in him. John 12:37.
Wow, I love how you're jumping all over the Bible. It's almost like the story from one doesn't finish the story from the other, so you have to jump from verse to verse to make it seem like a cohesive story. So I think that you're now what's called cherry picking pieces of the Bible and assembling a new story to make it seem like, well, the Pharisees, didn't see the stuff. Well, we don't know. The leper was told to go and do something. Well, we don't why maybe the leper didn't do that. Or maybe he did. But here again, let's think critically. So the guy was a leper for real. Let's just say that just for the sake of argument that for real he had been. And he'd been that way for a while. A good enough time that people knew about him and knew that he was a leper, knew he was screwed. They weren't going to touch him or have anything to do with him. Jesus comes along and really, actually, for real, heals him. Says, go to them and tell them and do the Moses offering, blah, 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 and that will be a sign. So he does. He goes up, he does that whole thing, and they're like, who are you? I've never heard of you before. He's like, well, I'm this guy. I'm Joe Bob, and I was that leopard dude. And they're like, oh, well, we got to investigate this. Let's go ask his friends, his family. Oh, yeah, no, he was this leopard, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, well, this is interesting. Okay, there's something going on. Who cured you? This Jesus guy. Okay, that's interesting. Let's write that down. Keep track of it. Let's see if this happens again. But we got to find this Jesus guy and follow him and track him for a while and see what he's doing here. Let's follow him. Let's do some detective work here. But that doesn't happen. The Pharisees don't seem to record anything like this. Why not? Why do we have no writings from the Pharisees from their perspective, from their side of the view? The only mention of the Pharisees we have is from the other side, the side that's writing that doesn't like the Pharisees. So, in fact, the word Pharisees has become like a tainted word to use today, because that's like we're so against the Pharisees. They were the law keepers. Ooh, bad guys. Well, they were being skeptical, and more power to them. But in one breath you're saying you won't be given that, and in the other breath you're saying, Oh, but you will be given it. You will be given something, but not what you're asking for, which seems to be a little bit immature, if you ask me. But again, I don't understand why, if you're so clever, you're skipping different parts of the Bible around to make it seem like a story. Perhaps your cleverness is in deception rather than in honesty. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
When proof of God is debated, like the scribes and Pharisees, some people require a standard of absolute incontrovertible proof, which is impossible.
No, not at all. And even the Pharisees weren't asking for that. So this is straw manning the Pharisees' request and is potentially straw manning everybody else's request. They just wanted proof of some sort, and Jesus didn't give it to them, apparently. Now, maybe a leper came to do whatever. Maybe they didn't recognize it. Maybe they didn't investigate it well. Maybe they didn't record that it was Jesus who did this healing. Maybe that was one set of Pharisees that heard about it, but another set didn't. I don't know how well organized these guys were back then. Um, and neither do you. And that's the problem. That's one of many, many, many problems. Okay. But as far as requiring absolute proof, no, there's just like, do a sign. And Jesus is like, no, that's not going to happen. Okay. Well, then why are we going to believe you then? One sign. That's all. It's like they wanted one miracle done, and he wouldn't do that. Okay. None, unless I'm wrong, and it could be, but from my memory alone, from what I recall, I don't think that there's a single time that Jesus does a miracle that any Pharisee sees, period. Let me know if I'm wrong in the comments. Okay, and tell me the Bible verse. All right. Now, so that's not an absolute standard. So that's a straw man of the Pharisees in the book that you're fairy quoting from. Now, for others wanting absolute standard, whatever that means, maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't know. But it's a potential straw man, so it's a potential fallacy that you're now making. Okay. Then you say it's impossible for an absolute proof to exist. Is that absolutely true? Is that absolutely provable that there's no absolute proof? Now you come with the paradox, okay? If it's not absolutely provable that there's no absolute proof of things, then and then you run into the whole problem, okay? So, yes, it is absolute proof is a thing, or it's so paradoxical that it can't be a thing. One or the other, it can't be both, all right? But it depends what you mean by proof or how you view it, I suppose. But yes, it's absolutely 100% provable that you have a light that is on behind you during your filming of this video. That is proven. That is there. I can see it right now. Now, I have very little reason to think that that's a blue screen or green screen effect behind you because it's too well done, first of all, and I don't think you have that technology. Secondly, I've noticed nothing about it that would make me think it's a green screen. The plausibility of it being a green screen is very small. Snuffy, oh my God, have you been? Sorry, I had to yell at somebody in chat. But it's absolutely 100% provable that there's a light behind you, and there's very, very little reason for me to think that it's just a photo and not really actually there. And in fact, the burden would be, if somebody said that it wasn't really there, then the burden would be on them to indicate in some way, shape, or form that it wasn't there. So yes, you can prove that light is actually there, and you can do so to a satisfactory conviction of me or anyone else that has any amount of level of coherency at all, and I would call it absolute proof. that the light is indeed there and it is indeed on. And there are several experiments that I could conduct and come up with that could prove that the light is there and that the light is on. And we could get other people to do it too. And we could get independent sources to do it. We could have papers written about the light being on, being published by scientific, being peer reviewed. Okay, we're gonna need some money to do all this, granted, but we could do it. And if you told somebody, me or whatever, where the bleep you live, or maybe that's a bit too, shady, sketchy, but you could take that light and we could meet somewhere public, and like I could verify it that yes, it's a real light, and I could plug it in and turn it on, be like, oh, look, it's on. Bam, done. That's it. 100% proof. I don't need more than that. There is nothing greater that you could do for that light being on. So that's a sufficient standard of evidence. You're saying, oh, that doesn't exist. Well, but it does. Maybe in your mind it doesn't, but in my mind it does, which means either we have different definitions or ideas of what an absolute proof would be, or it might be that you're just wrong and full of it. But regardless, we don't have absolute proof. Okay, maybe we don't. Do you have any proof at all then?
Many murder trials, for instance, last a couple of weeks or less. After hearing, perhaps at most, 40 hours of evidence, for and against, a jury can determine whether the charge is true beyond a reasonable doubt.
All right, so I do not understand. I really don't. Somebody help me out in the comments. Just somebody explain to me this. Why is it that apologists, like, they don't always do it, but I don't know how the frequency of it, but it seems very common to me that this happens. And let me know how common, do you think it's very common, like uncommon, rare, super rare? I don't know. We're gonna score this on a card system or something. Like, it's common, it's uncommon, it's rare, it's super rare, it's hollow foil. How common or uncommon this is. But anyways, that they do this thing with comparing things to how trials work. Well, in a court of law, blah, blah, blah. Lee Strobel has said this. Craig has said this. I don't know who else has said this. But I've heard it many times from many different apologists. And it's always apologists, too. Like, it's always the theist apologist that's doing this. It's like, well, but in a trial, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, trials are different than things. But okay, fine. You really want to do this? We'll put God on trial. The problem is, God's been put on trial. Oh, yes, it's happened. People have tried to sue God, believe it or not. Here's what happens. The judge either dismisses it or they grant it. Now, here's what happens. If it's dismissed, that's it. You're done. If they grant it, here's what happens. They say, you're right. God's guilty. Verdict for God, against God. And the person stands there and is like, okay, I won. Yes, you won. Congratulations. And they're like, well, now what? It's like, that's it. Collect from God. That's it. How are you going to, you can't, because God's not there. God's not going to give you anything, right? So if you win against God, you get nothing. If you can't lose because there's nobody to argue against in the trial, which is why most judges dismiss it. But sometimes they'll be like, okay, sure, let's let them waste their time and money and come in. And I'll just be like, yeah, you win. Okay. Good luck collecting from God. Oh, you want $1 million from God? Okay, sure, you win. Go collect it now. And, oh, by the way, there was nobody that wanted to represent God because they knew they were going to lose. And they're like, yeah, we lose. Our side loses. We lose. Now what? So, you know, God's been put on trial in that sense. But also, we've had it where people have gone to trial and said, God made me do it. I've seen more than once articles about moms drowning their children, usually very young children, because God told them to do it, or because they thought that the child was going to go to heaven immediately and they were afraid that the kid would go past the age of accountability, so they killed them so they wouldn't. So they go immediately to heaven. But in the cases where they say, well, God made me do it, which there have been some cases, sometimes that's like considered an insanity plea. And it's considered an insanity plea because the person's insane. Or at least that's how we have to view them, because we don't really think that they heard from God. We think that they heard a voice in their head, but we don't think that voice in their head was God. We think that there's just cuckoo nutsoid because they did something that we view as wrong. And they still need to face some sort of consequence for that. And there has been court cases where a person said, the devil made me do it. Same thing. But if you really want to put God on trial, he, she, it will lose because you got no evidence to bring forward. You have nothing but hearsay of accounts, of accounts, of accounts, and that would not be permitted in court ever. So here's what you have. Hi, I'm Jim. My stepsisters, brothers, twins, foreign cousins, late brother's aunt, roommate that knew a guy said that this happened, and I wrote it down. Then, after I wrote it down, this guy comes along, he translates it into a different language, and he forgets some of the words that I'm using. But, you know, whatever. It's close enough, I guess. Yeah. Oh, and then he burned my copy, which was the only copy I had. And I don't remember how it went. So, yeah, whatever. Okay. And that's what we're submitting now in court, is that version of things. By the way, the guy that wrote that is now that translated the thing that from the thing that I wrote. He's dead now, so we can't check with him. But that's, Your Honor, that's what we would like to present into evidence. No way is that going to get in. No way. It's going to be thrown out immediately. So if you really want to go the courtroom standards, you have no case, not even a little. But I find it funny, hilarious that this is what the apologist does. They go, oh, but in a courtroom, we have different standards of evidence. Yeah. And that's not good. But even in a court, you wouldn't succeed. So you don't have anything. Keep going, though.
The verdict is not beyond all doubt. The accused and victim argued. A threat was made. The murderer's fingerprints were on the murder weapon. The suspect's DNA was found under the victim's fingernails, etc., a la forensic files. But there is no videotape or confession. However, the preponderance of evidence implicates the suspect beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah, and we don't have any of that regarding your version of God, which would be the Catholic version of God, as opposed to the Protestant version of God. And it's also a subset of whatever Catholic church you belong to. So it might be the one with the Pope Catholic, or it might be like the more secular Catholics, or the more liberal Catholics, or the more uptight Catholics, the West Catholics, the East Catholics. I don't know, but it depends. So you have a particular version of God that is going to be different at some degree, at some level, than some other God. And that those indifferences, although you might say are unimportant, are very important for me, the skeptic, because I'm like, you guys can't even decide what God is. How am I supposed to? You guys have to get that stuff together, but religion just keeps getting more and more fragmented, almost as if it's not really perfect and is fully run by humans and made by humans in the first place. Just saying, But once upon a time, the Catholic Church held extraordinary power, and there was a way to view God, and it was their way. Period. End of story. You want to know what the Bible says? Too bad you can't read it. It's in Latin. Oh, you want to try to translate the Bible? Well, we're going to burn you at the stake. Yeah, those Catholics did some stuff back then, but I mean, they don't do anything nowadays. It's what's that? What? Really? There's a scandal in the Catholic Church? Didn't know. Oh my God. That's what? That Okay, so it seems like there have been some things that the Catholics are doing or did do lately that also is kind of bad. But even though the people have done bad stuff, that doesn't mean that their claims are bad or that the religion is false or that it's wrong. It just means that the people are pieces of garbage. That's all. And I don't know why you would want to be part of that group, but okay, it could still be true, even though lots of people are supporting a system that basically is hiding a bunch of pedophiles. But that's fine, I mean, just because you do that doesn't make you wrong. Okay, just want to make that clear. Just because you're part of an organization that is fine with hiding child molesters away from the law and hiding evidence from the law, just because you're part of that organization and don't have problems with that, doesn't make your arguments invalid. You don't have any argument so far, but if you did, it would be independent of the fact that you're part of an evil, terrible organization who, by the way, still has not was it decommissioned? What do they call it when they uncatholicize you? I forget what the throw you out of the church. What's the official name of that? Somebody in chat knows, and I can't think of it. Anyways, they still haven't done that to Hitler, so just because Hitler was, of course, part of the Catholic Church. So yeah. But anyways, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I don't care. Oh, at least the new pope's okay with gay marriage or whatever, right? Yeah. Well, let me know when he's okay with abortion. Excommunication. Thank you, Snuffy. That's it. That's the word, excommunication. They haven't done that yet. So just saying. I mean, they could start there and then start by apologizing for the whole hiding of the child molester things and then releasing all those names and saying, here's full transparency and, we won't let that ever happen again. And maybe one way to help prevent that is let your priest get freaking married so that, they're married and at least then they have a wife that they can have sex with instead of having to get their jollies off of little kids. Just an idea. But regardless, all that could be true, and it is. And yet the religion could still be true. It isn't, but it could still be. Not that we have any argument or reason to think it is, but okay. You said DNA evidence? Does God have DNA? What is this preponderance of evidence you're speaking of in regards to your deity? And why haven't you presented it yet? Let's find out. I remember I said it was going to take me like 5 weeks to do this video. Yeah, I'm only 2 minutes in, so I guess this will be part one of a million for this. Okay.
The sentence is 30 years to life. But because God's existence is so important, a game changer in life, unlike any other proof, some want God's proof to be irrefutably certain.
Well, I would think that would be pretty darn important, wouldn't you? I mean, why wouldn't it be? If it's that important, why wouldn't it be blatantly obvious to humanity what and who God is, how it works, why it works, and what it wants from us, if anything? Why wouldn't that be abundantly clear? As clear as, you having a statue of Mary behind you, or what's that? A wooden painting or wooden thing? I don't know if that's a painting or it's just made out of wood. Got some little black ribbon cloth thingy hanging on your door there. You know, you've got a American flag. You've got two light switches, and you got this black and white blanket or stuffed animal over there. You got a blue chair there. I mean, yeah, there's a hallway and a doorway and a light up here and another light up there. And you've got glasses, you got gray hair. You look Jewish to me. I don't know if you are Jewish or not. Just saying you look Jewish to me because you got the big nose. You know, not saying that. My brother's Jewish. He's got a big nose. You know, you sound, you know, kind of maybe like you might be Jewish or whatever. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. You know, just making, you know, abstractions. And you got a striped shirt. And all this is pretty fucking obvious to me. Oh, I said the bad word. Oh, I've ruined the video because I swore. And now he's not going to take me seriously. Like he's actually listening to my video. Yeah, right. Anyways, but, you know, all that is very, very obvious to me. Okay? I didn't have to believe any of that. I didn't have to worry about it being true. I just see it all. Here it is on full display. I can ask Brian Stevens, be like, "Hey, Brian, does this guy have glasses?" And Brian will be like, "No, deconverted man," because he wants to screw with me. Or I'd be like, "Hey, Johnny, help me out here. Does this guy have glasses?" And Johnny would be like, "What guy? I don't see anybody," because he wants to screw with me. Nerdy rodent. I don't know. He'll AI transform this guy into like an animated character using some weird website that does stuff that I don't understand, and I'll be like, "Hey, nerdy, I want you to do this thing." You're like, "Oh, that's really complicated. I'm not gonna do that." I'm like, "But it's a good idea." You're like, "Yeah, it is, but I'm not gonna do it." I'm like, "All right, who's gonna do it?" "I'm not gonna do it. Nobody's gonna do it." Fine. And then like the other, sorry, I'm back. I'm okay now. Oh yeah, Germania wants a wrench. If you give me your wrench, I'll give you a wrench. I don't know how to do that right now either. So I'll have to figure that out later. Anyways, all right. What was I doing? But all that is blatantly obvious to me, okay? But yet God is so not obvious to humanity. Forget about me. Me, who cares? Humanity. That last Pew poll research I'm aware of, 33% of all humans in the world believe in the Christian / Catholic version of God. That's it. That's how well proven your particular version of God is. That's pretty darn pathetic. But let's hear what you have to say for yourself.
Such a request is unreasonable. Like any other proof that's good enough beyond a reasonable doubt, God's proof is proof enough.
No.
Though belief in God is fraught with emotion for many, such a belief or unbelief should be decided by the same criteria and merits that science, philosophy, math, the courts, etc. use.
Okay, sure. Now provide any proof at all.
Science, for example, will never assert absolute certainty about something, but rather theoretical reasonableness, which is sufficient for assent. Therefore, we must apply the same standard of proof to God.
All right,
The
do
origin
it.
of the universe at the Big Bang, everything from nothing.
Okay, all right. So the origin of the universe, comma, the Big Bang, comma, from nothing. Or was that one sentence? I'm not sure how to break this down because this is the important part. This is the core of your argument. I don't even know if I should call it that. Your evidence. Okay, let's go back a bit. Okay, just to make sure, because I don't want to strawman this guy.
The origin of the universe at the Big
Okay, the origin of the universe at the Big Bang. Okay, so origin of the universe at the Big Bang. Okay, all So, okay. Let's make sure I got that.
Bang, everything from nothing.
Everything from nothing. Okay. And that's the other one. Everything from nothing. Science. All right. So I got a couple of things pulled up for this. All right. Because I want to address this because it's important. All right. Let's see. So here's Google here. Let's get me small so we can read it. So just a simple Google search, not super deep dive or anything. According to this website, whatever, it's the top one. It might be wrong. I don't know. Whatever. The breakthrough idea later became known as the Big Bang. The Big Bang was the moment 13.8 billion years ago when the universe began as a tiny dense fireball that exploded. They didn't put a exclamation there, but they did put it in bold, so I guess I'm supposed to read it like this. 13.8 billion years ago when the universe began as a tiny dense fireball that exploded. Most astronomers use the Big Bang Theory to explain how the universe began. I'm not really sure that that's the terminology that cosmologists have been using, but whatever. Okay, good enough. All right, let's go to this. All right, let's go to this other window here. Window? Did I say that? I don't know what I said. I said something. The Big Bang. How could something come from nothing? All right. That's this website. And, I don't know. I guess I'll link them in the description, whatever. Yeah, not that they're, well, I mean, the first one was a Google search. Should be silly to link that in this description. I'll do it anyways. And then this website, I'll link it. But again, it could be wrong. I don't know. It's just what I Googled, right? It's like the first thing came up. Not a deep dive here. Blah, blah, blah. Let's see. Okay. All right, let's look at how material physical matter first came about. For aiming to explain the origin of stable matter, of atoms and molecules, where there was none of that around at the Big Bang, nor for hundreds of thousands of years. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty cool. Didn't know that. Could be wrong though. I don't know how much of this is wrong or right. All right, we have a pretty detailed understanding of the first atoms formed out of simpler particles once conditions cooled down enough for the matter to be stable, and how these atoms later fused into heavier elements inside stars. But that understanding doesn't address the question of whether something came from nothing. Okay, so there's a limit of knowledge that we've reached. Then the first long-lived matter particles, any kind, were protons and neurons, which together make up the atomic nucleus. These came into existence around 1/10,000th of a second after the Big Bang. Before that time point, there was no material in any familiar sense of the word. But physics let us keep tracing the timeline backward to physical processes which predate any stable matter. That takes us to the so-called Grand Unified Epoch, which is another thing I guess I'd have to read about. By now, we're well into the realm of speculative physics, as we can't produce enough energy in our experiments to probe any sort of processes were going on at that time. Plausible hypothesis is that the physical world was made up of soup of short-lived elementary particles, including quarks, the building blocks of protons and neutrons. There was both matter and antimatter in roughly equal quantities. Each type of matter particle, such as the quark, has antimatter mirror image, which is nearly identical to itself. However, matter and antimatter annihilate in a flash of energy when they meet, meaning these particles were constantly created and destroyed. How do they come into existence in the first place? Quantum field theory tells us that even a vacuum, supposedly corresponding to empty space-time, is full of physical activity in the form of energy fluctuations. These fluctuations can give rise to particles popping out, only to disappear shortly after. This may sound like a mathematical quirk rather than real physics, but such particles have been spotted in countless experiments. The space-time vacuum is a seething with particles constantly being created and destroyed, apparently, quote, out of nothing, end quote. And that's in quotes, and that's very important that it's in quotes. But perhaps all that really tells us the quantum vacuum is, despite its name, something rather than nothing. The philosopher David Albert has memorably criticized accounts of the Big Bang, which promise to get something for nothing in this way. All right. And then there's more. Okay, I'm not going to read the full thing. All right, I'll link it in the thing. Okay, the point here that I belabored to produce in this production, perhaps, is that maybe there was never a nothing. That what we think of nothing never really existed. Because that little animation, well, that's not nothing, that's something. That's energy. And maybe the energy has always been. Whether or not that, we can make sense of that doesn't matter. Maybe that's how it works. I don't know. You don't know. Scientists don't know. We've hit the limit of knowledge right now. Maybe we'll figure it out, maybe not. I don't know. I'm happy with the mystery. I don't know. But I do know this. This is the example of nothing that you have. Nothing. You don't have an example of nothing. The sort of nothing that you're talking about right now, the philosophical idea where there is not any thing. That is an idea that we humans have come up with. An absence of everything. Everything. There is nothing at all. Now, I ask a very simple question. I say, okay, are you sure? To which the person should say, yes, I'm very sure. Okay, are you really, really sure that you have nothing at all? Yeah, I'm really sure. And I'm like, okay. Then everything can happen, even the absurd. And you know, wait, what do you mean? I'm like, well, anything can happen. Why not? Cows can appear inside out, upside down, and backwards, and round circles and triangles can be created. And God exists and doesn't exist simultaneously. Like, what? What do you mean? I'm like, yes, everything was made and nothing is real and everything ever was and everything always is. Huh? What? What are you talking about? I'm like, well, you said there's nothing, right? Which means there's no rules. There's no logic. There's no anything. That's a problem, isn't it? That's a paradox. So there has to be a rule. One rule. There has to be. And the first rule appears to be no paradoxes allowed. That means there is something already rather than nothing. There's a rule. That's not nothing. The rule is you can't have paradoxes. And you're like, well, where did that rule come from? The rule came from the fact that if you have paradoxes, everything collapses in on itself and you are left with nothing but incoherent nonsense. Well, but I don't, well, okay, then it's not nothing. So there never was a nothing. So the philosophical idea of nothing can't really exist in reality. That's the point that I'm making. It's a concept, might be a useful concept to some degree, but it isn't a real phenomenon. And if you want to say that it is, well, produce your argument, produce your evidence. But you don't have that. So how do we know that something can't come from nothing? And how do we know that nothing is where everything came from? But beside all of that, regardless of any of that, how does the existence of the universe, the Big Bang, and or it coming out of nothing have anything to do with God whatsoever? Because in order for us to link those two together, you must demonstrate association, which you haven't done. And coming along with association, because it's its friend, is causation. Association causation is a very important thing in informal and formalized logic, mostly informal logic, but it might be more informal. I don't know, is it more informal? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, okay? It's important. Doesn't matter which one is more important in. We're not going to debate that. My producer that doesn't exist is trying to get me to debate. Anyways, doesn't matter. All right. What was I saying? I blame Snuffy. That's what I was saying. Yeah, it's all Snuffy's fault. Everything that I've ever done wrong, it's his fault. And thus he now takes responsibility for all the bad things I've done. And Brian Stevens is taking responsibility for all the medium, not bad things. And then Nerdy, what? Stop going crazy. Play the video. Shut up. No. Oh, right. So you have shown no association causation between the universe and your God. So who cares about that? What you have is I don't know how the universe got here. Must have been God. That's not an answer. That's not an anything. So that's not evidence. At best, it would be an appeal to ignorance and or personal incredulity. But those are both logical fallacies, so that's not good either. So you failed to show association causation and are potentially doing two logical fallacies, or at least one more logical fallacy beyond the one that you've already done, which is actually another logical fallacy to add on to the list of logical fallacies that we have actually identified you doing. Straw man, cherry picking, pre-assuming that the Bible is true without showing us that the Bible is true, and some other fallacies that I'm probably leaving off my list because I've lost my fallacy counter at some point. If you know where it is, let me know in the comments below.
The subsequent regularity and maintenance of the mindless universe, and life's origin, evolution, and sustentation all point to an intelligent force independent of the universe.
How does it point to that? Hello? 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 Is this thing on? Hello? Hello? How does any of that point to that? Hello? How does any of that point to... Hello? How does it... You can't just say that. You got to show it. So demonstrate that. And then I have a problem, but I'll get to it in a moment because we're almost done with this video. Didn't take me a week, but it did take me pretty long. Almost done, so let's get through it.
Beyond a reasonable doubt.
No.
God. No.
Which God? Which one? Your God? Your Pacific version of God? The Catholic God? Your version of the Catholic God? That God? Really? Huh. Well, I wish you'd show me how that points to that, but you didn't, so okay.
No other explanation will suffice.
Oh, that sounds like you have an absolute proof then. If no other explanation will suffice, then you have absolute proof, which you said you couldn't have earlier. So which is it? But saying no other explanation will suffice is kind of closed-minded, don't you think? I can think of several possible explanations, but even if I couldn't, that doesn't make your explanation the only possible one. That's rather foolish. And it is very narrow-minded. It means you're not leaving yourself open to be able to question your ideas that you hold most dear. And I find that to be a problem.
Jesus gives enough signs.
Jesus didn't give any signs at all, ever, as far as I'm concerned. In fact, the Jesus of the Bible did not exist, period. Oh, somebody named Jesus did? Yeah, probably, but I don't care. I don't care. You don't need a Jesus to get the whole thing started. But the Jesus of the Bible definitely didn't exist because he did stuff that's impossible, period. And until you show that any of it is possible, yeah, I'm going to stick with that. Jesus is as most likely, Jesus of the Bible exists in the same way that the X-Men, Spider-Man, Superman exist. They exist as a story and nothing more.
People sometimes will not believe because belief disrupts their paradigm of reality.
No, I don't believe because you haven't presented a single point of evidence at all. Not even a little. I don't care what is true. This is the weird sort of mind reading ishness that you're going into here. You must not believe because a priest touched you when you were young. Well, maybe that's what caused them to start questioning it, or maybe that's why they don't believe. But who knows? Let's ask them. Let's not just assume why people don't believe, shall we? Can we not do that, please?
The skeptics say, let him come down from that cross now, and we will believe in him.
I didn't say that. I wasn't even there. I mean, I'm old. How old am I? Really? That's pretty dang old. I don't know if I want to share that age. Tell them you're 20. They'll not believe I'm 20. Tell them you're 30. They might believe I'm 30. I don't know. Be an old 30. 40? They'll probably believe I'm 40 something. I could just be like 40 something and leave out the something part. I don't know. I could get away with 30. I'm 20. All right, everyone. I'm 18, and that's what I'm sticking with. Yep, that's my age now. Mm-hmm. Sure. What was I? What, oh, right. I'm old. What, but I'm not old enough to have been when Jesus was around, so I definitely wasn't around to say come off the thing. But why didn't he do it? Like, that's the other thing. Like, Jesus could have been like, all right, guys, jumps down, right? Like, hey, guys, check it out. I'm jumping off the cross. Bam! Look at me. Does a little dance. Bop, 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 bop. I'm alive. I'm alive. Bop, 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 bop. And then he jumps back up to the cross and goes, but I gotta die for your sins now. Excuse me for a few days. And they would have been like, well, what the hell was that about? Holy shit. And then they would have written that down. That would have been pretty cool. But, anyways.
Matthew 27:42. Even if Jesus came down from that cross, which he could have, they would still not believe.
How do you know that? How do you know? You can't know that. You cannot know that. If he had done it, but he didn't do it, then they wouldn't have. How do you know? Do it, then let's find out. That's so frustrating. Like, yes, I can fly, but if I did fly, you wouldn't believe I could fly. Well, just fly. Nah, you're not gonna believe me, so why bother? Oh, brother. That's it? That's it?
Still cross, which he could have, they would still not believe.
That was it. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. What? No. What? Anyways, I made a response to this. Let me know if you watch it. Beware, I might let a few swear words slip, but I'm a skeptical atheist, so it's okay for me to do that, because whatever. Whatever. All right. All right. All right. All right. I also downvote the video. All right. So I did that. I covered this entire video. Oh, right. The thing I said I was going to bring up after I was done with the video. Right. You didn't think I'd forget. You thought I was. You're like, Deconverted Man, I'm still waiting for you to do the review of God's Not Dead 4 and finish that. Where's that? Nobody said that. Nobody's complained about it. Oh, what about that cartoon you had up? Like, I thought you were going to make more of those. Nobody said that either, but I know people are thinking it. I know people want it from me, and I'm like, I don't know. I'll do it whenever I feel like it. I don't feel like it right now. Maybe I don't run out of ideas. And anyways, but nobody cares. Probably. Maybe. I don't know what anyone thinks or feels or I don't know. Is anyone even watching this? Maybe. Yes. Apparently. What am I saying? What's going on? Why am I insane today? Oh, right. This guy did it. Right. So, the problem I have with all this, right? You're like, well, universe, how did that come to be? How did that work? Well, God. Here's the problem, though. Well, how does God work? How does it function? What makes God tick? What is God made out of? How does its mind work? Where does its power come from? How does it function? Where is it? When is it? What preceded it? What made it? And then, of course, the common answer is it's always been. Okay, but How? How has it always been? How does that work? What is God exactly? What is it? Not what it isn't, but what is it? What is it made out of? What are its components? And how does that function? Why does it have angels? What would be the point of having anything at all if you're God and you're perfect? Why would you make anything else? It would be, unless it was exactly you, it would be not perfect because it's not you. So it has to be less perfect than you. So why would a perfect being make imperfect things at all? And if it made it perfect, but it's not God, then how does that work? And how does it make anything at all? But none of those questions will ever be answered because, one, they're not in the book, they don't tell you. And secondly, because you don't have a God to ask those questions and get the answers, not out loud at any rate. And that is the, well, one of many, many, many problems. So apparently, supposedly, your God, like other gods, can do stuff and can interact with the physical realm. Okay, God that's listening to this message that I am now saying right now, enter into SteamYard and add yourself to the stream and say hi to all of us right now. How about now? Okay. Allah, same thing. Ghosts, spirits, future self, aliens, demons, devil, something, anything want to do that? Paranormal? Anybody with ESP want to do that? No? Huh. Well, either they don't care, or they don't have the power, or both. Oh, well, but that's just asking for the proof, and you've already gotten the proof, and I haven't gotten a damn bit of proof. That's the problem. Give me proof right now. Well, but he already... No, it's not good enough. Somebody very near and dear to me said to me, well, God already gave this proof, and he doesn't owe it to you. And I'm like, well, he does. Then I don't owe it belief. If it won't give me the proof today, I owe it 0 in belief. That's it. Germania, Nerdy Rodent, Snuffy, Brian, I'm making sure I didn't skip somebody's name that I saw here in chat earlier. Johnny Drive-By, probably already said his name. And I saw somebody, Kevin Lentil Music. Is that everybody? I think I said everybody now. Yes. Okay. All of you people that were here in chat are people. You're all humans. How do I know that? How do I know you're not robots? Well, and I could also guess that all of you are guys. I could also further guess that you're all probably Caucasian-ish, and that you're all atheists or atheistic-minded. Maybe the label isn't quite the same for everybody. But how do I know that? Because I know most of these guys. I know most of them. How do I know them? Because I've talked to them. They've talked to me. They've left comments. I've responded. Some of them I've talked to live on YouTube. Some of them I've emailed. You know, Gurmania and I had that wild sex that one time that I'm not supposed to talk about. But, you know, we were drunk. Well, he was drunk. Well, okay, it was a roofie. All right, it wasn't a roofie. It was a sleeping shot that I got stole from the medical office. And he didn't even know that I was there. I mean, technically, I guess you could say it wasn't really sex since he didn't know about it. But remember that one time you woke up and your butt hurt, Germania? That was me. Can't prove I didn't do it, though. Or wait, can't prove I did do it either, even though I'm admitting to it now. You're probably now thinking like, oh, man, there was that one time that my butt really hurt. It could have been they converted that. Which means but then if that's true, that means I'm admitting to a horrible crime here live on YouTube. That'd probably be pretty stupid of me to do. So it's more likely than a joke. And I'm probably going to be flagged for hate speech now, and this video is not going to exist anymore. And it's all Germania's fault. That's the only thing I have to do. Fish head salads here. See, I know all these people. Why? Because we talk to each other. And if your God would just spend what would not even be any effort to it at all to say hi to all of us, not just me, but every single name that I mentioned here, and God knows who we are in real life, and he could I don't want to say he or she, it could just say hi and do it all at the same time of day and do it in a way that none of us would be confused about that it's real and that it's happening, and we'd all be like, and it tells us to email each other, and we all do, and we're all emailing each other that this happened. That would be amazing, but it's not gonna happen. How do I know that? Because it hasn't happened in the past. Atheists have been asking for the evidence since the idea of God was invented. And those that believe in God have not provided it because God is an invention of the mind. It is made by humans for humans. As far as I can tell. I could be wrong, but I don't have any reason to think that I'm wrong because we didn't have any empirical evidence, nor did we have any repeatable tests, nor did we have a valid and sound argument. And so for all of those reasons, we must be skeptical of his conclusions. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. Buy my books and everything. Brian Steven has a book. Oh, it's all right. Yeah, it's not a book he wrote. I thought it was a book he wrote. I was going to promote it. All right, if anyone has anything they want me to promote, let me know, and I will. If you want to talk on this thing live with me, let me know. If there's a video you want, let me know. Just let me know. That's all. You've got my email, right? Everybody has my email. If you don't have my email, it's on my About page. It's also deconvertedman1@gmail.com. Don't forget to buy my books that I mentioned. Buy my books, Infinite Hope and Caught Between. What is it called? Caught Between. Man, I should have named it something shorter. Caught Between an Infinite Hope and a Finite Despair, and also the Lightbringer, which can also be used as a hammer, apparently, according to the ad that I saw for it. So you get those books and read them, and then send them. Get more of them to send to people, and like then find me a single girlfriend, because I haven't found one of the end of the video. I'm not done yet. I want to complain more. End the video. No, I don't want to end the video. End the video. All right. I'm being told to end the video by my non-existent producer / director, whatever he is. I'm a girl. You're a girl now. Whatever. Good night, robots. Thanks for everything. How about a taken girlfriend? No, I need a single girl that will be my girlfriend, and then I'll have her on this channel, and we'll complain about stuff. It'll be great. It'll be like 2 hours worth of content instead of just